And now on Marcus Paul in the Morning, Senator Malcolm Roberts.
Morning, Senator. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thanks, Marcus. How are you?
Look, I can't complain. I'm under fire, though, Malcolm.
Why is that, mate?
Because, all of a sudden you criticise somebody who's up to a neck in it for obvious reasons, the New South Wales Premier, and all of a sudden the program's veering off to the left, and
Well, it means you're on target. If you're getting criticised, good on you.
Thank you. Look, we have been discussing it a lot, and, well, Mark Latham, he was very scathing yesterday in his assessment when he made his speech on the matter. He said that the New South Wales Premier broke 14 of her ministerial standards. And look, it is not just limited to New South Wales, because you've got problems up there as well in Queensland.
Yes, you've probably heard of Jackie Trad.
Yeah, of
the
course.
Infamous Jackie Trad.
Yep.
She's looked upon as having the real power up here, mate, and Anastasia Palaszczuk is just a puppet. And Anastasia Palaszczuk the other day recognised just how damaging Jackie Trad's reputation is. So she said Jackie Trad won't be in her cabinet. And then the real power controllers in the Labor Party, the unions, they said, hang on. The factions picked the cabinet ministers. So just butt out, Premier. Just let it go, mate. We've got this in hand. No. So, with the Labor Party, it's not a democracy. It's the power elites who control power in Brisbane.
All right. Okay. Well, look, I don't care who it is, whether it's Labor, Liberal, Calathumpian or otherwise. I detest the misuse and misappropriation of public funding, and also the misappropriation of power, and that's obviously what we're seeing at the moment here in New South Wales, and there'll be more damning evidence, I have no doubt. I mean, this bloke's just rolled over, and he knows that I have his number, Daryl Maguire, and he's trying to, in his best recollection, put all the missing pieces together of this puzzle that leads, I've no doubt it leads to further problems for the Premier of New South Wales. Now, I spoke with Anthony Albanese earlier in this week. He wants a federal independent commission against corruption. Do you agree?
Yes, we've been raising that for about a year now. I originally thought the parliamentary processes should prevail, but I've come to realise it's just too intractable. So we've got to get an independent body to hold politicians accountable. And really, Marcus, the ultimate, I was talking with people out of Pittsworth in southwestern Queensland yesterday and listening to them, and the real people who should be holding the governments accountable are the voters. And that's just not happening at the moment, because we've just had, until recently, just two parties, alternative, Labor or Liberal, and they're basically the same in their major policies. So it's really up to the voters, who are the sovereigns of our country. They're the only people who can control, who can change the Constitution. So the voters are the ones in charge, and voters need to step up and stop accepting just Labor and Liberal rubbish and lies. And it's, the real problem is that the politicians who've been elected do so without serving the country. There's no intent to serve the country. It's just look after the party power positions, and that's about it. We've got to get back democracy in this country and elect people who will serve the people.
Yep. All right. Now, I've always thought, why on earth in this country do we have as good as it is, and it has been, the XPT service that runs throughout regional New South Wales, and we've got the Garn, the old rattler that goes in inland Australia. But, why on earth hasn't anybody, over the decades that we've been presided over, why hasn't any politician or any party ever decided to, have an inland rail, a very fast train, or anything that would bring us in line with, some of our southeastern Asian counterparts? The bullet train has been going forever and a day in Japan. What do you make of all of this?
Well, there are two real needs here. One is an inland rail that carries freight from Melbourne to Sydney to Brisbane cheaply, because it's far cheaper than road once you get a long haulage, and also the passenger express train, which is what you're talking about. But the inland rail and is looking like a real dog at the moment. The government has allocated $9.5 billion. The original business case was $9 billion.
Yeah.
With basic hiccups that have come along the way, we're now looking at around about $20 billion, another NBN on steroids. And there are so many warts on this, crossing the Condamine floodplain. It's just a real mess, and it's going to end up costing the taxpayers billions more than expected, and not get a decent service. This inland rail is really being mismanaged, and we've got to come in and reconsider the Warwick route down south in Queensland.
Yeah, and for New South Wales listeners, I mean, the Inland Rail's poor planning sees it missing key New South Wales and even Victorian agriculture areas, Shepparton, Griffith. The original route that you've written here, the original route, Marcus, was faulty. The concept was also flawed, and there are problems, in floodplains like in Condamine and Lockyer Valley.
It's a real mess, and it was pointed out to me by a very good civil engineer, wonderful reputation, and he said that we're missing Griffith, which is a key regional agricultural region in New South Wales, missing Shepparton. So it's not connecting the agricultural areas. There are so many hairs on this project. It needs to start again with a proper, honest premise.
All right, I just want to touch on this before we finish today, Malcolm. You and I aren't weather experts. I mean, I think it's a non-exact science. It's very hard to pick the daily patterns, but long term, we do get a bit of an idea from study of graphs and climate as to what we can expect in the coming period. Now, there are predictions of a La Nina, meaning a wetter period over summer. What do you say about this? You've done some work on it?
Well, that's what we're reading now. They're predicting a La Nina. I might mention that just a couple of years ago, they predicted a La Nina and then within a month changed their mind. So they had a forecast for 3 months out. Within a month, they changed it and reversed it to the opposite. So, but Marcus, what's going to happen? No matter what happens, we don't control the weather. We can't affect the weather. And the same old people who told you that droughts are caused by human carbon dioxide are going to be telling us this summer that it causes floods. So I would advise people not to start building their ark yet, because the previous forecasts, as I said, are quite often wrong.
All right.
The same people who scared kids about endless drought are going to drive fear this summer about floods. So educate kids to just realise its nature.
All right, so instead of building an ark, can I build a Trojan horse? Maybe, I don't know, maybe try and push it through the gates of Macquarie Street and then just open it up and say, surprise!
With ICAC plastered across the front of it, on the
now you're talking. Now you're talking. All right, mate, good to have you on. We'll chat again next week. Look after yourself.
You too, Marcus. Thank you.
All right, there he is, Malcolm Roberts from One Nation.